it was always children, work, maybe my husband, children, work. And there wasn't really a lot of attention for me in my life at that stage.
Lieke, thanks for inviting us at your NautaDutilh office.
Welcome.
I'm Gijs Coppens. I'm a healthcare psychologist and the founder of OpenUp, a platform for mental health. And we are here to talk about your mental health and mental health in general. Mm-hmm. So my first question is always, how are you doing at the moment?
I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I feel happy, healthy, stable. Like everybody, I find this COVID period challenging, and there have been periods in my life when life was more fun. Yes. But I'm doing okay.
Yeah. And I guess you miss a lot now in terms of interactions with your colleagues and maybe also other interactions in your life. Is that something you recognize, that you kind of miss elements in the work that you enjoyed so much before COVID?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Work is a bit boring at the moment, and the content that we do, that's the same. It's still innovative, it's still challenging, it's still interesting work, but it's a lot less fun than it used to be before COVID, and that has to do with the fact that we're all working from home, obviously, and every day you spend most of your time behind the screen in Teams meetings. And every day blends in and more or less becomes the same. Whereas before, we used to have negotiations here at work, here in the office, and then people would be in the room and would get emotional, and people would, leave the room and say this is unacceptable, and then we'd have breakout sessions, crunch time, finalizing the deal, etc. We'd sit in the office late and negotiate contracts, but we would be there with the team, eat together, celebrate the signings, and now, all of that is not there. We're all celebrating our signings behind a screen with a glass of champagne in front of a camera. Yeah. It just isn't the same.
No, I can really imagine.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have a family with 3 teenagers. And a husband at home, so it's also something to manage at home. How do you stay sane with each other in this period? How do you do that?
Well, that's a good question. I've got 3 teenage girls, 11, 13 and 16. And right now they're back in school, but for the past month they've all been homeschooling or online school. And you can imagine that's sometimes a challenge. It has happened that I'm in the middle of a serious call and that all of a sudden they decide that it really is the moment to start screaming at each other. And where that used to be really embarrassing, we've all been there, we've all seen these things happening during team school, so it's okay, but it's not really comfortable. I have to say, I escape to the office regularly to avoid that. I work in the office roughly one day a week when I have difficult calls or important meetings, and otherwise I work from home.
Has mental health, has it been a theme for you in your life at a certain point maybe?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it has been a theme in my life,
no.
But I do remember when I was a young mother and the children were very small, and I was only partner for a few years, so junior partner here at work. My husband was working full time, and that was a challenging period. The children needed a lot of attention. Work was challenging, and at some point in time I really felt, when I was at work, I felt guilty I wasn't with the children, and when I was with the children, I felt guilty I wasn't, doing my work and not talking to clients and the team. And I think that's a theme quite a lot of working mothers will struggle with. For me particularly, that was difficult, and I also found it difficult in that stage to be really cheerful, to be really happy. And that's when I sought help. I started talking to a coach, how to get out of that disbalance.
I really understand your story, the way you describe it. It's very vivid. And how did it help you talking to the coach?
Well, first of all, just speaking out loud, saying to somebody how you feel, that helps. It makes things a little bit lighter. And clearly I wasn't the only one who struggles with that particular theme, so that was helpful. And she gave me a few very practical tips. One of which was quite hilarious. She told me to start doing nothing. And what do you mean nothing? Just go and sit in a chair and do nothing. So I tried. I sat in a chair, did nothing. And I remember my husband walking into the room and saying, what are you doing? And I said, well, nothing. Why are you doing nothing? Well, the coach told me to do nothing. Well, it totally didn't work. I cannot do nothing. So we discussed, and then I started walking. Just every evening, 15, 20 minutes, walk outside and do nothing other than listen to the environment, the birds, the wind, like today, or whatever. And that helped, just to have this moment of quiet every day. So that made me, that helped. And the other thing that she said, which was probably even more important, was take time for yourself. It was always children, work, maybe my husband, children, work. And there wasn't really a lot of attention for me in my life at that stage. And that was, I didn't see it that way before I started talking to her. And so then I started doing more sports, putting things in the agenda that were just my time, and also discussed it with my husband and the children. Well, they were very small then, but that's my me time. And that also made a big difference. Because if you're not nice, if you don't spend attention to yourself, if there's no room in your life for yourself, it's really difficult to be a good mom and be a good professional.
I hear you say you started walking 15, 20 minutes, being mindful, being attentful to the environment, and also making time in your agenda for sports for yourself.
Yes.
Is it something you still do?
Yes. More now actually than I used to do in that time, because the children are a little bit bigger, so different challenges, but at least it's easier to manage your own time. It's easier to explain to them, not now, but in an hour I will have time for you. I do sports every other day, sometimes even more. And I walk with the dog a lot. So being outside and exercising is important for me to stay balanced.
Thanks for sharing this personal story. How is mental health a theme in your company? How do you look at health in the company?
I think it's essential. It's maybe a cliche, but I like the term corporate athlete, because I really think that's what we do. We always perform at the top of the market. It's a very challenging job. It's a very fun job, but it's a very challenging job. And I think you can only do that well if you're healthy, physically and mentally, and otherwise you can probably do it for short term, but in the end you won't be able to continue performing at that level. So I think it's a really important theme.
And what would be your advice if it comes down to health? What kind of advice would you give your colleagues, maybe also your junior colleagues?
That's very personal, of course. Different people need different guidance, and it also changes in the cycle of your life. When I was a young mother, I needed other coaching than I might need now. So that's a difficult question if you make it that broad. But I think, generally speaking, it really helps to talk to somebody if you're stuck in whatever you're stuck in, really, because simply by speaking out loud what's bothering you, by saying it, it becomes lighter. And obviously that can be a friend, a partner, somebody in your family. Sometimes it's more helpful to get some professional coaching. But that's a personal question, I think.
I think so too. I think there are maybe some elements that are for everyone important, like lifestyle, like sports, also like having supportive social relationships can also help. But of course, every context is different, so every person needs a different advice. I can imagine here at Nauta, the level of the work that you deliver is very high. It's like top sport, like the corporate athlete that you just described. I can also imagine that puts pressure on people to not make mistakes, to be perfect. Is that a theme you recognize?
Yeah, I think I do, and I think most people in our firm will recognize that. In an environment as challenging, competitive as ours is, it is difficult to make mistakes. Nobody wants to make mistakes, and we all say it's allowed to make mistakes, it's human to make mistakes, but it doesn't always feel that way in an environment like this. And that's not just NautaDutilh, I'm talking about the total sector that we work in. I think it's difficult for people to owe up to having made mistakes. And here, but also in other firms, I think the term insecure overachiever is a very valid term. I think we have a lot of those people in our firm. It would be nice to have a climate where it's more normal to owe up to your mistakes, to talk about it. But it might not always feel safe. No. And that, I think, is a moment when it would be good to talk to somebody else about it. Because if you go around in circles in your own head, it may become bigger and bigger, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And what would you say, because you already gave an advice now to the people that have circles in their head and think a lot. Mm-hmm. What would you advise these people?
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
And if it's too scary to do that with a colleague, talk about it with a friend, a family member, a professional, but talk about it.
I think that's really a very nice ending of our conversation. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Thanks for being
and
so
listen.
open. And listen as well.
Listen to others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So be an open system, open up.
Yeah.
Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you.